This is Michael Carson back with another video. What I'm going to go over right now is March 25th, and Rupert Lowe sent out a series of tweets, about 4 tweets, relating to the reform investigation against him. Well, they filed a police report with no real substance, and then they kicked him out of the party. He's not going back into the party. You can forget that. This is why you should not put reform in power. I'll just read the series of tweets, and you make up your own mind. But the reason why you don't put this party in power, for one, it's not an actual party because the members are basically subscribers. You pay a fee to be part of the membership, but it's controlled by Nigel Farage and the many Muslims, so that's how it is. And let me just read the tweets, just in order. And these are from Rupert Lowe. This is the first tweet. I've been told that the reform investigation is going to be released prior to a deadline given to my lawyer. The reform investigation has not spoken to me nor my team. So here's my report on the unfounded claims of bullying in my office. I've gone through the evidence that has finally arrived from the reform investigation. So let's take a look. One of the primary complaints, to give you an idea of the veracity of the allegations, following a conversation about a standard constituent issue, an email with contact details one of the complainants was expecting was forwarded to her from a colleague with no subject line or context. She felt that this was an incident of rudeness and undermining. Apparently, the unspoken subtext of the blank email was, "Look what you have done." I don't understand the context of that. But okay. The other complaint talks of micromanaging from a colleague who raised legitimate issues about her work maybe 2 or 3 times in 6 months, not even working from the same geographical location. Both complainants only raised these allegations once the disciplinary process had started against them for multiple serious offenses. But let's first look at the timeline of how this reform investigation was launched. I gave the Daily Mail an interview on the 25th of February. Farage's team was made aware of the interview on the 26th. These complaints were escalated within reform a day after, on the 27th. Their complaints were submitted to the independent parliament body on the 28th of January and on the 2nd of February. Why did it take almost a month for these to be escalated within reform? The day after, the reform leadership were made aware of my interview. On the following day after these complaints, I received a poorly worded letter from Anderson. The reform investigation was launched. I'm sorry, but if I was dealing with Anderson, I would probably expect that. But, I actually have issues with email myself because I hate email. So I understand that. In all coincidence, is it how these complaints were brought forward within reform immediately after my mildly critical comments of leadership? I have no faith in this investigation has been conducted in a fair manner. Would you? No, I don't. It's Nigel Farage and his bus ways is throwing the guy under the bus. He threw UKIP under the bus. He threw Brexit under the bus. He's throwing members of Reform under the bus. Whole entire branches of Reform have, resigned in various reasons because they don't like dealing with Farage and his gang of merry men, I guess you could call them. Farage admitted in his own words through a BBC investigation that he didn't allow the investigation to even start before I was removed because I had damaged the party. With the Daily Mail interview, from the outset, this was evidently not a fair process designed to find the truth. I am not a Reform MP. My staff are not Reform staff. This has nothing to do with Reform. I will not put my staff through such a disgustingly biased process to satisfy Farage's ego. I will deal with the relevant parliamentary process if any complaints are ever brought forward. Which apparently they're not even doing it through the parliamentary process, so it's just BS all the way around, right? I mean, everybody that's not held Farage to account should be mindful of that. You are basically giving Labor a free pass because Farage is basically controlled opposition. Reform is done. You can call that party conform. Let me continue on. Reform is shamefully attacking my innocent staff to smear my name. This is not right. It is unprecedented in modern British politics. Extensive evidence of this is being presented to the parliamentary authorities and my own legal teams. Both of these complainants admitted to serious offenses and both only raised any issue once the disciplinary process had started. Both then went on to admit other serious offenses. I treat taxpayer money with respect. That means staff who commit such unacceptable actions must be held accountable with disciplinary actions. That's fair in my book. Do you have a problem with that? I don't. There is no evidence of any bullying, because there was none. No bullying, no aggressive behavior, no violent threats. There are outright lies, unsurprisingly. These have gone unchallenged and accepted as fact, even with zero evidence by the Reform investigation. The statement published by Reform was designed to make it look like I was accused guilty of all these things. That is simply false and incredibly libelous. There will be more news on this soon, but let's look at some of their claims. One of the individual's primary complaints was that she was forwarded an email she was expecting with information from a colleague on the 8th of January with no greeting following a separate conversation about the case. She felt like the unspoken context of the blank email was, "Look what you have done." This was apparently an incident of rudeness and undermining. See, I don't understand that context still, because I don't know what they got into an argument about beforehand. Another incident of rudeness was on the 15th of January when she asked somebody to move information from WhatsApp to an email. A colleague said to her, "It's easier if you do it," as if it was her responsibility. Well, you can copy and paste it or take a screenshot. It's not that really hard. She said it was an insult to her intelligence that she was asked not to disclose confidential information to individuals outside the office. She complained that more experienced members of the team conducted regular reviews of her casework with constituents and brought up issues. Well, if you're constantly screwing up, and they're constantly telling you you're screwing up, you're screwing up. Like, that's the problem with those kind of people. Like, they take no responsibility for their freaking actions. I mean, how many times you need to be told you're screwing up before you change course and you keep screwing up? Yes, let me continue. Yes, my team checks work, particularly of an individual who just started employment and was evidently struggling. This was a standard part of her training. Part of her evidence was imagining what was said between two other colleagues. I can only wonder at what they might have been exchanging. This is not evidence. This individual was allowed to change her sacking for gross misconduct to a resignation, as I was concerned about her and did not want to cause further damage to her reputation, as she was also removed from her previous job prior to working with me over gross misconduct. Yeah, she probably did a horrible job. When disciplinary process began, she told the constituency manager for the first time that she had a condition which impacted her ability to understand instructions. We were all entirely unaware of any specific issue. Again, she only raised once the disciplinary process started. We have undeniable evidence to prove this. After her suspension, her father came to my constituency office. He refused to leave, becoming extremely irate and aggressive with my team. This was reported to Great Yarmouth Police. The other individual involved began her statement complaining that all staff in Westminster were treated equally on pay and she wanted more than everybody else. Despite errors in her work, she took great exception with having sensitive and important issues double-checked to ensure that there were no further mistakes. Apparently there were other messages to prove that she was stressed, but she had deleted them. There was a brisk phone call with a colleague that she was unhappy with. She was also upset that she didn't give the entire Christmas break off without using any holiday. Employees were allowed to work from home, but I expected the email account to be monitored and actioned. That was apparently unpleasant. This is when she became openly annoyed. She refers to the constant and unbearable and unnecessary micromanagement. She was upset that colleagues were critical. She did not like being chased. Micromanaged is a huge complaint for her. Towards somebody who spoke directly about an issue with her work maybe 2 or 3 times between July and January. Yes, we have high standards in the office. I expect taxpayer money to be spent effectively, wisely, and I make no apologies for that. In fact, I am proud of the work that my team has done. If errors are made, as there were, I expect it to be highlighted and corrected. She was not unbearably micromanaged. Maybe on 10 or so occasions in 6 months, she was asked by the team to double-check that an important issue had been resolved. The colleagues she accuses were not even working in the same geographical location as her. They perhaps met her 6 or 7 times. Both statements are filed with hearsay and outright lies based on zero evidence. Supposed conversations from months ago are detailed in precise quotes. These conversations never happened. The reform investigation accepted everything they said as fact with zero credible evidence to back up their wild claims. And that's the party you want to lead the country? You want to vote for conform or reform or devolve? Seriously? Mildly inappropriate comments made by one member of casework staff in a private WhatsApp conversation with another member of staff, who has gone on to maliciously leak selected out of context parts, does not constitute bullying. Does not constitute bullying. Does not constitute bullying. What the hell's wrong with me in reading? I had no awareness of these conversations, and to be frank, both employees shouldn't have been spending so much work time gossiping online. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you hire female employees, right? No, I'm joking. In these conversations, one of the complainants even repeatedly mocks the other complainant over her dress for the Christmas party, which I organized, funded, and calls her weird. She also refers to a different colleague as coward, prats, and pathetic. If anyone is doing bullying, it is one of the complainants herself. There is no evidence of any unpleasant behavior from those she is insulting and accusing. Parliamentary HR advice was followed on every step of the way, as the BBC political editor has seen and confirmed. This is from Chris Mason and Laura Kusenberg, or Kessenberg. I don't know, that's a German name. I don't know how to say certain German names without it. Wow. The BBC has also seen evidence of lengthy and detailed exchanges between Lowe's office and Parliament's Human Resources team over the alleged conduct and subsequent departures of 2 members of staff. A statement from my entire current team. These two women have vexatiously complained in an attempt to smear Rupert. and the entire team. And we are a team. We work together well. The only issue raised within the office have been these two individuals who did so after they committed serious offenses. This whole ordeal has been difficult on all of us. We do not want any of this. We just want to get on with our jobs and support Rupert, who has been a fantastic boss. There has never been any bullying. We will all go on the record and say so, and we have done so already. Yeah, they released a statement. And even the secretary signed it. I have heard nothing from relevant body of parliament, nor have my team. Of course, I will cooperate fully with that investigation if it ever comes. This is not bullying. There was no bullying. There was never any bullying. Using such claims to damage me through my staff is shameful. I will be urging Parliament to take action alongside my own legal teams. They have put my team through hell in an attempt to smear my reputation. This is not how politics should operate. It is dark, dirty, and simply not the British way of doing things. Well, it's the Nigel way of doing things. It's definitely Farage way of doing things. Anyone involved in reform should be aware that when it becomes politically convenient for them to do so, they will use any means to get you, including innocent staff. My team has been more effective than anyone in Westminster at uncovering waste, revealing important data, and supporting my work. I am incredibly proud of what they have achieved. Reform's leadership has proven themselves to be deceitful cowards, and that was the first message of the four. On to the next message. The second message starts off, there was no bullying. There never has been any bullying. Using such claims to damage me through my staff is shameful. To say that I have threatened legal action against these women is an outright lie. Both of these complainants admitted to serious offenses, and both only raised issues once the disciplinary process had started. Both then went on to admit their other serious offenses. There is no evidence of any bullying, because there was none. No bullying, no aggressive behavior, no violent threats. There are outright lies, unsurprisingly. Okay, give me a moment here. Let me look at the other one real quick. Let me look at the whole thing. This one it reads like the other one. But it's posted after the other one. So that's why it seems kind of similar. Alright, let me keep going. Both of these complainants admitted to serious offenses, and both only raised issues once the disciplinary process had started. Both then went on to admit other serious offenses. There is no evidence of any bullying because there was none. No bullying, no aggressive behavior, no violent threats. There are outright lies, unsurprisingly. One of the primary complaints, to give you an idea of the veracity of the allegations, following a conversation about a standard constituent issue, an email with contact details one of the complainants was expecting forwarded to her from a colleague with no subject line or context, she felt that this was an incident of rudeness and undermining. Apparently, the unspoken subtext of the blank email was, "Look what you have done." Well, yeah, I need to know more about what the actual argument is there. The other complainant talks about micromanaging from a colleague who raised legitimate issues about her work maybe 2 or 3 times in 6 months, not even working from the same geographical location. Both complainants only raised these allegations once the disciplinary process had started against them for multiple serious offenses, which we still don't know what those are. And he's actually protecting those fired workers, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. Reform has put my team through hell in an attempt to smear my reputation. This is not how politics should operate. It is dark, dirty, and simply not the British way of doing things. Yeah, unless you're a wet reformer or a wet Tory, right? Anyone involved in reform should be aware that when it becomes politically convenient for them to do so, they will use any means to get you, including innocent staff. Oh, yeah, that's pretty scary when you think about it, right? My team has been more effective than anyone in Westminster at uncovering waste, revealing important data, and supporting my work. I am incredibly proud of what they have achieved. This is all a malicious attempt to smear my name because I dared to question Farage. Now, if you will notice that it's, like I said, it's very much like the first text, the first post on X. It is different though, and it comes after the other one. Think about that when you're watching other videos or reading articles of who is actually on what side here and what are they getting paid to do. Keep that in mind. On to the third tweet. Reform has deployed woke HR lawfare to smear not only my name but the reputation of my innocent and decent staff, going as far as to publicly name them. That's pretty screwed up that Reform is doing that. If you're part of Reform, and this is what you're voting for, you're voting for woke BS. So shame on you if you're voting for Reform. Unprecedented wickedness. It is truly despicable behavior. I am ashamed to have been part of such a rotten organization. I would agree. I actually thought Reform was on the up. It turns out none of the people that are left from Reform are on the up. Not Richard Tice, not Anderson, not Nigel Farage, and not that fourth guy that's not even an MP. I'm ashamed to even be a remote supporter of Reform, or as I like to call them now, conform. I mean, this is crap. They're garbage. Moving on to the fourth one. I have spoken to my team. They are horrified that they have been publicly named by Reform. Separate to my own action, they are now in touch with the legal team. By Reform putting their names in the public domain, they have been libeled and endangered. It's shameful, these young men and women trying to do their job, and they have been assaulted with these lies based on zero evidence. We have heard nothing from the official parliamentary body, which is where this should happen, as anyone in Parliament will tell you. I will be urgently arranging to discuss this with the Speaker. Naming staff based off of an investigation they have funded themselves is disgusting, especially one that is essentially the word of two individuals against the rest of the team. They have no evidence of anything, just their opinion, which Reform investigation has believed with no questions asked. The complaints only being raised once disciplinary action had begun against both individuals, who I have never named, obviously. Vexatious complaints designed to cause as much damage as possible, which Reform has seized to smear my name. A fictitious one-sided version of events. It's one thing to go for me, but to publicly name and attack my staff to smear my name, that's not right or fair. It's not right or fair. They're playing really dirty hardball. And keep that in mind. If you're supporting Reform, you're supporting this behavior. So that is on you. If you are not supporting Reform, good for you. I hope you vote for the people that will deport the illegals and stop the boats and stop the migration. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider watching another one. And thank you for watching. Again, thank you for watching. please consider watching another video. Like and share so the videos get traction, and I appreciate it, and have yourself a wonderful day.